if you all promise to enjoy your time here, because it will beckon you to come back, I would now officially open the Everest Senior Curling Championships 2022. The volunteer base here allows us actually to accomplish even greater things than we can even dream of. I think, we go in hoping for a 10. We come out with a 12 or a 13. That's just the way it works. The people show up in droves. They're friendly, they're kind, they're knowledgeable, they're interested, they're excited, and they can sell Yarmouth like nobody else. And honestly, I mean, from lobster dinners in their own homes to bringing people out and about, hopping on a fishing vessel to see the real deal, absolutely amazing, above and beyond. For a small region, or what people think is a small region, we have the facilities to host just about anything. We've just magically turned our skating arena into a curling arena. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. You wouldn't know that wasn't what it was. We do hockey events, any sporting event, basically. We have a full facility that allows for, recording and getting the information out there, broadcasting, all those pieces. They are ours. They are top notch. So there's nothing missing on this front. Everything we need to broadcast, to get the job done, it's right here in Yarmouth, and we are just thrilled about that. Every opportunity we get to celebrate the Mariner Center, what it is, what it offers the community, it's a tremendous boost to moving forward. Obviously, I mean, folks see the potential in it. There's always excitement, and people want to be a part of that, and that can be volunteers, donations, everything, but mostly just the excitement of what's to come.
I'm Gary Nickerson.
And I'm Quinn Taggart.
And this is Outside My Window. And that was the Town of Yarmouth Mayor Pam Mood with the opening remarks and comments about the 2022 Everest Senior Curling Championship, hosted in December at Mariner Centre and the Yarmouth Curling Club. 28 teams representing all of the provinces and territories for men's and women's teams competed for the right to represent Canada at the Worlds in 2023 in Korea.
Now, over the course of the week, and as the teams played, the MC Media team, of which I'm a part, streamed 23 games out to Curling Canada's website and other online venues. There were 22 main games, and then we had a bonus game because it was Nova Scotia men's versus Manitoba men's, and it had playoff implications, but it was on the sheet that we weren't normally streaming off of. So we did do that with a single camera and put it out. But I also want to make sure everybody remembers that it's 100% volunteer crew. The whole team was all volunteer for the whole week. A couple of the early news clips were that Saskatchewan women's team, skipped by champion Sherry Anderson, anybody who's followed curling will know Sherry, was an early favorite to win her 5th straight seniors curling championship. So she obviously has dominated the seniors circuit for quite some time. But also notable for the week, this was going to be Al Hackner's, also known as the Iceman. It was going to be his last competitive curling game, as he had announced his retirement just before the event from competitive curling. So plenty of drama was on tap for the week.
I have to ask you, Quinn, you and the MC Media crew have covered so many events, sporting events. This must have been really exciting.
It was. I mean, curling coverage, if you watch it on TV, is very formulatic. It's a very up and down. It's fairly slow. It's not as fast as hockey. Obviously, no checking in the corners, no fights no fights over the puck or anything. But it really draws a lot of attention to Yarmouth and shows not only can we do this stuff, but we can host a major event, put on a good show, and everybody has a good time.
Now, Robin Matty is the manager of event operations for Curling Canada. She was on hand for the week to make sure that the event met with their standards and chatted with us midweek on how things were going.
I am responsible for about 4 or 5, sometimes more, sometimes less, non-season of champion events throughout the year. So non-season of champions would be the smaller events, not the Briar, not the Scott Tournament of Hearts, but more like the juniors, the seniors, the mixed doubles, wheelchair curling, the club championship. So my job is to manage those events, working with the local host committees, making sure that they have everything covered, the athletes get here on time, event runs smoothly.
I would think that nobody wakes up and says, I'm going to be an event coordinator for Curling Canada. So what's been your personal journey to kind of get you
Oh,
here?
that's a real interesting one. Born and raised in Nova Scotia. Started curling at about 10 years old myself in Shuttabuckto Curling Club in Guysborough County. So I came from a little two-sheeter. And I got good pretty quick. So I actually went to 3 junior nationals and 1 junior worlds representing Nova Scotia back in early 2000. When I aged at the juniors, I moved to Ottawa for school. Did interior design degree, actually. Worked in that industry for a little bit, but all along I was teaching rocks and rings in the elementary schools. I was the coordinator for the City of Ottawa curling recreation programs. I started and taught the very first Learn to Curl program in Canada, in Ottawa, under leadership of my current boss, Danny, and Earl Morris, who's John Morris's dad. I was the first instructor of that program. Huge success. So I was always involved in curling. When a position to manage these events came up, although my education didn't necessarily back it up, I think the experience did. So I jumped on a different opportunity. I was kind of bored with the interior design. Was chosen for the job. I think there was, 30, 40 other candidates. So I was very lucky to get this position and have enjoyed it ever since and just have grown the roles since then. Started off doing 1 or 2 events and now doing 5 or 6 every year. So a little different route to get here, but
Is it relatively formulaic or is it different every time you come in?
a lot of similarities, but there's always something that makes the events different from one another. A good example would be this one here's in a small community in the local hockey arena with the local curling club included. And the last one I did was in a middle of the West Edmonton Mall.
That must have been an adventure in itself.
It really was. We were a little scared of that event. We weren't sure how things were going to play out because it was so different. We didn't have the host committee support like we do here. We were kind of just a one-man show working with, mall employees and not curling fanatics. So how everything was going to go was a question right until the second day of the event, because the event actually got delayed by a day for ice install issues that happened in the middle of a mall. So there's always something, and they're always a little bit different, for sure.
Worst case scenario is you head to the water slide part.
Exactly. We were a little concerned we were going to have our own little splash pad on the ice because it was under like a window, like a sky dome or something like that. So when the sun shone in there at noon hour, we could have had our own little water park, but it all went well. Again, a challenge we didn't know how it was going to play out until it played out itself, and it ultimately turned out fine. It was a great event.
Do you find when you're doing these events that you're rotating between specific venues, or is it really an open bag?
It's an open bag, for sure. Because a lot of these small events can be hosted in a curling club. You do need a minimum, typically, of 6 sheets. So almost any club in Canada can host them, or a combination of 2 sometimes. 2 smaller ones sometimes host them. Having an arena, though, it always makes it special for the players. The players love the arenas. So then they get a bit of both worlds. They get the experience of the arena, but they get the grassroots of a curling club coming on board to support the event as well.
So, technical question. When you're comparing arena ice to club ice, what's the real distinction? Should there be a different feel?
Yeah, there should be. I think arena ice is famous for big curl, 6 feet of curl, and curling clubs never get that. And it could be mainly because, it's a one-time process of putting it in, making it picture perfect, where at a curling club you're maintaining something for the whole year. So there's a lot of effort put into making it perfect for the week, getting that right amount of curl. Sometimes a little more experienced ice makers coming in to do the work as well. So I think that's the general main difference, faster and more curl.
How many years ahead are you on awarding events?
I think we just awarded 2024 events. I would say we're usually 2 or 3 years ahead. Whether it's announced or not is a different story, but there's pretty good inkling of we know where we're going for the next 3 or 4 years. Yeah, and it all depends on interest from communities too, right? Sometimes there's huge interest in the seniors and there's a bidding war, and then other events it's a little more of a struggle to get communities to pick them up. So, but I think for the most part we're good for the next 3 or 4 years.
So when people think curling, they think the Brier, they think
Yeah,
Scottish
yeah.
Tournament Hards, the Worlds. But some of these smaller events, draw a good crowd.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's the grassroots of curling, right? And there's a big element that I feel sometimes gets forgotten about the grassroots. So that's what these smaller events are. Focus mainly on that and trying to draw the smaller local communities out to look at curling, see that they could be doing this. The Brier and Scotty, of course, tons of people watch it, tons of people see it, but a lot of it is current curling fans, right? And not you're recruiting people.
So again, when we think of those events, we think broadcast television, we think TSN, Sportsnet, CBC, and so on. What has live streaming done for you in planning these events?
Oh, it's great. It's great. It's unfortunate that we can't stream everybody. I have a big passion for the sport. I'm not just here to run the event. I really genuinely care about how these events go, and I care about these athletes. For many years, I've tried my hardest to adjust the draw to make sure that everybody got the opportunity to be streamed, no matter what team they were. I wanted all their families across the country to be able to see them on some sort of live broadcast. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. We can't please everybody, but we do try the hardest. There still is an expense associated with it. So unfortunately, we cannot have cameras and labor on every single sheet. But we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. As it gets more common and gets more popular, we'll be able to accommodate this at a lower cost, I would hope. But it's opened the door to being able to watch curling all the time.
Coming to a center like this, and again, it's self-serving for me to ask this question, but I mean, you got a built-in live stream
Yeah.
production house.
This was pretty handy. This saved a lot of work, a lot of extra effort, a lot of money. Every time we come to the East Coast, there's only compliments for the host committee, for the areas, for the effort put in, the transportation put in, the arranging excursions outside of the curling. No, there's never any negative about these events down here. And I'm not just saying that because I'm from here.
Mark Duffy, co-founder, president, and CEO, was on hand to take the action and sat down with us to chat about how Everest got involved with the curling and the value add that live streaming brings to their investment.
We got involved years ago, primarily through our marketing partner, World Financial Group, who obviously was very involved with curling. And a lot of our distributors, our primary distributor is World Financial Group, and the senior guys were talking to me about getting involved with curling, but I'm from Houston, Texas. I've never curled in my life. Well, I have a couple of times, but not any great shakes. But I did play hockey, and so I'm used to ice sports, and got introduced to it. And we spent a couple of years trying to really figure out what the strategy was going to be. And the key thing for us was really getting introduced to Randy Furby. And Randy was really the architect behind us getting involved in curling, and then introduced us to Jennifer Jones. And between Randy and Jennifer, who are two of our three people on our executive committee with Cheryl Bernard, have really been the guiding force for us, to kind of get involved with curling, but also to help build a sport.
So how do you feel your investment has been in curling? Are you seeing some ROI?
Well, there's a lot of different ways to calculate an ROI, and I kind of view it a little differently. It's not a straight up financial return, but it's more of kind of a brand building of what we're trying to build. I think curling is a perfect sport for us, both talking about taking care of community and people, and I just love the people that are in the sport. And how they give back and how the whole community feel about that. There's nothing like this a sport anywhere else. And so it's very unique, and I think it translates really, really well to our value proposition, and the people that are involved with it are just first rate. And so, and it's fun to watch, and it's very, very enjoyable, and I hope to get it expanded to the United States more, because in the United States we only get to see curling once every 4 years in the Olympics, and so to have something like this, I mean, I've turned a whole lot of people on to Curling Canada's YouTube channel and said, let's watch this and see what you think, and there's some big interest, and so hopefully we can help grow the sport some more.
Have you had a chance to get out and enjoy a little bit of the area?
Yes, I have. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful town. Been able to go out and sample some of the local cuisine. It's been good, and the people are so friendly and warm.
So, in looking at a venue for an event like this, is your preference a smaller town because of that sort of atmosphere that goes with that?
Well, interesting you should ask that, because originally we were thinking it would be better in a bigger towns, more people. But I think we found that some of our best events are in the smaller towns. And we've had some exposure to here before. We were in Digby 6 years ago and had a fabulous experience there. So I think we're 2 for 2.
So when people think of course, watching sports, they think broadcast television, but live streaming seems to have taken over a bit of some of the underlying markets. Are you a fan of the live streaming?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the quality. Right, we were in the lounge last night, the Everest Lounge, which we have for the players every night, and we put the live stream on game, and we put the TSN, the football game, on at the same time, and you could not tell the difference. So, I mean, just from the video quality of it, and it's first rate. And I think because of that, the cost can come down. It can be open up to more markets. There's the whole presentation around the event that we need to work on, and we put that on to us. But that's why we're doing it. We have Brent Lang here calling it. We had Cheryl Bernard and Jennifer Jones calling the Curling Club Championship in Edmonton. So we're slowly trying to ramp that up, but I think the ability to be able to project like that, because you go down on the ice here, the quality it's broadcast quality television, and so I think it's up to us to then take that and help expand it.
And it's broadcast quality run by volunteers.
Yes. I mean, and say 5 years ago, 6 years ago, like when we were in Digby, the very first time we ever had it streamed, and it buffered, and it was not anything close to what it is now, but because of that, you're able to be able to project, and so Yarmouth can be anywhere. It could be anywhere because of the fact of the streaming and the quality that's there. So the technology change in just a handful of years has been so spectacular, and you could just see that that's going to be the future. We really want to bring the seniors and the Curling Club Championship up to the level of the Scotties and the Briars, and that's a heavy lift. And I think it's going to take. We have a big team that works on this. Really proud of them, and I think we can. We focus on this and make it the best it can be. I think we can do a lot of good.
Randy Ferbey is a 6-time Canadian curling champion and a 4-time world champion, and was commentator for a few games during the early schedule and has been to a lot of events. So we wanted to know how we stacked up.
The week has been absolutely fantastic. I think this is their 7th or 8th year of doing this senior event, and this is one of the best run ones we've ever had from a committee perspective. They've looked after all the needs for us and especially the curlers. I can't say enough about what you and your committee have done here. It's just been overwhelming and fantastic.
How about the weather? I mean, I know sometimes the weather can affect the ice, but how are things have been down at ice level?
It's good. What you guys have done here again with the lounge down there has been fantastic. The weather here has been great from where I'm at. Coming from Alberta, it's not even. Alberta's a balmy -25, and here this is absolutely beautiful. I feel like walking around in my shorts actually.
So give us a little bit of history. I mean, I know your history as far as curling goes, but how did the association with Everest come about?
Well, it goes back a good 10 years. I was working with World Financial Group, and Mark from Texas with his company came, and they wanted to get into Canada. And so it started there, and they approached WFG, World Financial Group, to see if they can agents to sell their product. And one thing led to another, and I knew a lot of the agents and a lot of the people that work for World Financial Group. And Mark was looking for somebody to help him along with other avenues of his business, and someone recommended me. And here we are, 10 years later. It's been a great relationship.
So do you think maybe you might go back to competitive curling?
No, I think my days are gone. There's, all the players now put so much time and effort into it. I had my day in the sun, and I don't regret leaving when I did. And, maybe I might throw the odd rock in a club game or something like that. But from competitive point of view, no, those days are gone.
What about coaching?
Coaching's always on the table. I love curling, and I think I might do it if the right opportunity came up with the right team at the right time. But right now, my time is with Everest right now. So
You keep in touch with the guys?
Yeah, not as much as I do. They got younger families than I have, and they go their separate ways and everything, and life gets in the way. But overall, we still communicate with each other on a regular basis.
So what's next for Randy Furby?
Good question. As soon as this is over, we start planning for the next year already. We're doing that, and then plus I got some outside stuff with Everest with World Financial Group that I'm involved in. But it's the old cliche: as soon as the event is over, we're planning already for the next one.
Brent Lang, a world-class curler in his own right, gave us a sense of what it takes to be a top-notch curler and what it's like to curl with his wife, Jennifer Jones.
Sports teaches us a lot about life. You get what you give, and anything takes time and effort. You want to be, where we've been in this sport, you got to do what we did. You got to be willing to sacrifice all those things that we missed out on. People's friends' weddings and birthday parties and trips and, parties at school, all those things. So like any sport, I don't care what you're doing. If you want to be world class at what you do, you're going to miss out on other things, and people are going to think you're a little bit strange. If they don't think you're weird, you're probably not doing the things you need to do in any sport to get where you want to go, because somebody's going to outwork you. And if that's the case, you're not going to beat them.
So what's your off-ice ritual like? Workout schedule, so on. What kind of things do you do?
Well, it's evolved over the years. Obviously now it's about trying to maintain. I'm getting older, so it's hard to keep improving physically. It's more of maintenance and staying flexible and staying fit, keeping the cardio up. Obviously I still sweep. So yeah, it depends. I've worked with trainers in the past. COVID, obviously we had the home gym set up, and rowing something. I got a rower at home I try and use. It's kind of the opposite of sweeping. We do a lot of pushing, so a lot of the physio and things over the years have said you got to do some pulling. So chin-ups are a big part of it. Rowing. We do have a Peloton. The Peloton craze hit our house over COVID as well. So, and with the kids, with running my own business and all the things that go into it, I got to do a lot of scheduling, and I try and fit it in the best I can. And then we compete a lot. So, and competing mixed doubles for me is part of the reason I play, is because it's such great conditioning for the 4-person game and time for Jen and I to spend together. But it takes a lot, and my fitness regime is nothing like you see these young guys now, and it's no wonder I can't compete with them anymore. They just work harder, and they're a foot taller, which helps. I can never change that, but yeah, it is what it is. But I still feel like I'm as good as I ever was in terms of throwing the rock. I think I'd be crazy to think I'm as strong as I ever was, but I can still make all the shots. It's just the game is evolving, and so I don't know how much longer I'll hang on, but we'll see.
Speaking of the evolution of the game, what sort of things have crept into the rules of curling over time that you think improve the game from a viewership or a fan experience?
Well, definitely the free guard zone. Without that, I don't even know if I would have continued to play. That came in right as I was really starting in curling, the early 90s. And without that, commentating this week, when you see a corner guard that they're trying to throw slide into the rings and the other team hits it, it's like your shoulders drop, and it's like, oh, this is going to be pretty boring. But if there was no free guard zone, we would have no product to sell. Nobody would watch it. I wouldn't play it. It would just be too boring. That's the most important change over the years, and that goes right back to the Howard brothers, Russ and Glenn, playing practice games against each other. One guy'd get 2 points early, the other guy'd peel him out, and they got tired of that, so they created this rule, and here we are years later, and going to the 5 rock rule I think makes sense. That's the biggest change that we've seen, certainly.
When you look at cost to entry on a lot of sports, I mean, if you want to play hockey, whew, sticks are like $250 a piece and so on.
They break easy.
Yeah, but cost to entry on curling, it's not that bad.
For most people, cost of to enter curling is zero because everybody has a pair of running shoes. Not everybody, I shouldn't assume, but most people have a pair of running shoes. Clean them up. Do you have pants that you can wear usually, and a shirt and a jacket? It's something warm on the ice, and then everything else is, when you're starting, is supplied by the curling club. They have, we call them rental brooms, but they don't rent them. They let you use them. They have the sliders. The rocks are there. There can't be really, other than maybe soccer, where all you need is a ball. There can't really be an easier sport, a cheaper sport to access. And even when you get going, I mean, our 6-year-old daughter just started playing hockey, and it was $100 for every year she is old. It was like $600 to get everything going, and then it's a few $100 for the once a week league, a training thing she plays in, and then curling. And I don't know why, but I mean, curling membership, people will complain if it goes from $400 to $450, and you can play every day of the week. But that same guy or gal is going to go join the golf course for $2,500 and not bat an eye. And they're going to buy a new $600 driver, but then they're like, well, I have the same shoes in curling for 30 years. So it's not an expensive sport. And that's great because then there's more access for everybody from all walks of life.
Curling with your wife. Now, I know curling with my wife's a bit of a chore because she's highly competitive. I'm a little bit more laid back. She hates it.
Yeah.
What's it like curling with Jennifer?
It's great. I mean, and I'm being honest. I would say that anyway, but I am being honest. We really enjoy it. Mixed doubles is a fast-paced game. It's fun to play. There's rocks everywhere. There's more pressure on a player in mixed doubles than in regular curling because you're always involved. There's only 2 of you out there. I admit that I get more angry playing mixed doubles than I do in the 4-person game, and I think that's just because there's more pressure on me. But we have a riot. I mean, we have our moments like you would have with any teammate, and but it is a ton of fun. And for me, I mean, playing with my wife is fun. It's not everybody gets to play with Jennifer Jones and her resume, and there's nobody I'd rather have throwing last rocks than her. There's really nobody around that plays the game quite as well as she has over the years, and so that part is tons of fun. And nothing would be better than to maybe we could win a Canadian championship together, and maybe that would be a way to go out. That would be pretty cool.
Neil McKenzie, CEO for Yarmouth and Acadian Shores Tourism Association, gave us a feel for how it all comes together and what major events are up and coming for this area.
I'm really impressed by how hard everyone's working and the volunteers that are putting this event together. So I'm feeling really good because I'm really inspired by watching what everyone else is doing. Sponsors, a lot of that's in the early planning of the event. You're trying to get your local, municipal, and provincial partners on board, and then the volunteers kind of build as you go along. The partnerships and the sponsorships are early in the game for sure, but we always seem to be able to pull a good list out and have good corporate sponsorship and local partners for sure. This is larger than the last curling event we hosted, so we're building capacity and the ability and the expertise and the experience to host these larger events as we go on. So that's a real key thing for our destination, is to continuously build capacity so that you can host larger and larger events. Music Week has been secured for November 2023. That's a great event.
And we hosted Music Week, but that was pre-COVID. Has COVID changed the look and feel of how Music Week's going to go?
I think they have had to make a few changes, and some new partners have come on board. But it's still very much a live music event now. And now that restrictions have been lifted, it's much more back to the party and fun that it was before. If anyone's interested listening to this and anyone's interested in that, they can certainly just send an email to me or info@yasta.ca, and we'll get them on the list. We have had a few people already reach out to us because it's a fun event. A lot of people want to be involved, and we definitely need volunteers as well.
Graham Conrad was the head ice technician, and we asked him how he got into that role.
I used to be in construction for 23, 25 years. The position came up for ice tech at my home club. I said, sure. My body was starting to get a little beat up from the construction industry, so I said, why not? Let's try it. We got the arena on Tuesday night at midnight. We had to have it ready in 4 days. I've got 2 deputy chiefs with me and a handful of volunteers. We worked not around the clock, but long days. It takes a lot of work, especially when you get to the point where everything is in the ice and you're waiting for the water to freeze. You get a little bit of downtime, but still you're working on other stuff to get things ready for the competition to start. Normally for prep, after the game is over, a scrape, pebble, nip, we usually have 5 with us. Just picking up snow, mopping, picking up bumpers, moving rocks around, the small stuff that we don't need to worry about. The arena's system is very good. We've had 2 days of heavy wind and moisture outdoors. The humidity in here probably didn't get any further than 58%. Made for great ice. It had no issues with frost. We got here, the 3 ice techs went over and gave their local ice maker some advice, some changes, some of his pebble temperatures, ice temperature. We probably added 2.5 seconds to his speed. He did a great job. The curlers came back to us and said, the speed is pretty close to here, but it's a unheated ice shed, and it is cold in the club. Just like to thank my deputies. The volunteers here have been outstanding. Other than that, it's been a great event, and thank you very much.
Al Hackner has been a competitive curler for decades and decided that here at the Everest Seniors Championships would be his last competitive game. Hackner's known for the shot that set up extra ends at the 1985 Brier against Pat Ryan. CBC's Don Whitman and Don Duguid have the call.
Holds it close enough so that he just picks it, rolls over and makes the double kill. But that shot of Ryan, you saw the whole team throw up their arms like he just won the Canadian Championship. But this man going down to throw his last rock is going to give it his very best effort.
He must make the double. He has to save the shooter. He trails by 2.
It's a tough shot, let me tell you.
The Canadian Championship and a trip to the Air Canada Silver Broom awaits the winner. The final rock of the 10th end. Hackner must kill both Alberta stones and save the shooter.
Oh, he's well out there. Now it's starting to curl. Is he going to hit it thin enough?
He's going to get a piece of it. He may have it.
Oh, listen. Can you believe that? Almost back. 1,000 to 1, I said. Can you believe that shot? Fantastic. The whole crowd is standing up here, Don. That is the most fantastic shot I've seen in curling.
We have something special that's going on right now, and I'd like to actually get Mr. Al Hackner to move forward into the button. He is playing his last competitive game. Ladies and gentlemen, throwing red stones on sheet B. Will you please make some noise on out there for Team Northern Ontario and the Iceman, Al Hackner. Now, Al, come on over here. Come on over here. Well, usually I start the game and I say, good luck and good curling, and you know the rest, right? So what I want you to do, I had to tell him because he's old. Okay, so there you go. So, in just a few minutes, curlers, the ice will be yours. Good luck, good curling.
Let the games begin.
There you go.
Well, my parents curled, and we as young children, we go down to the club, and they're sort of a form of babysitting. So I watched them play for quite a few years, and then I think at age 14, my father said to me, "It's time for you to learn how to curl." So he dragged me out in the ice and fell down quite a few times, but by the end of the session, I was hooked. I was a curler. I like arenas because it's a little bit warmer. I'm a chilly guy. and I always had to put on all kinds of clothing to stay warm. So I like arenas where I don't have to dress up so much. Well, I'm still going to do a little club curling, and I'm going to play our major league maybe another year or two. I still like to get out and play that much, but just the chasing the competitions, I just thought that was this being my 19th national. I said that's enough. I played enough, chased it. I'm still going to do a little bit of coaching on the side. I've got a couple things lined up for that. And then I'm going to concentrate on my lucrative hockey career. That's what I've been telling everybody that. I play hockey 3 or 4 times a week, and I really enjoy it. So I'm going to stay with that. Back in the day when I was I moved to Thunder Bay when I was 18, and I was curling. And a few years, 5 or 6 years later, I was going to my first Brier in 1980, and my nickname amongst just my buddies was the Iceman, because I was, pretty calm and cool on the ice, and I wasn't trying to be that way. It's just my demeanor. And we playing in the Calgary Brier, playing against Paul Galzel, the favorite, and I made this really good shot that actually the Calgary crowd actually cheered my shot. It was such a pretty good shot that I made a few rocks disappear and a hit and roll and all that stuff. And after the crowd died down, one of my buddies, he stands up and just yells to the entire crowd, "You've just met the Iceman." I went, "Oh, good grief." So that was it. The Iceman is stuck. Winning our first world championship was always a thrill. We got to go to Garmisch-Partenkirchen, a beautiful part of the world. The mountains. We stayed in an absolutely luxury hotel that we never could afford on our own, and we got to drive this Porsche around, and it was just a beautiful place to be at. And we kept pinching ourselves and telling ourselves, this is what all the work was paid off for, to get us at this beautiful place, and then we happened to win. The rules are to make for a fantastic game to watch. I kind of like I like the mixed doubles game, although I don't play it. I've do some mixed doubles coaching. I said, the Olympics only has 3 medals to hand out, men, women, and mixed doubles. I think, you think of all the different sports at the Olympics for sliding down a hill. How many medals do they give out for going down a hill every which way? I said, you could have, instead of mixed doubles, you could have men's doubles, you could have seniors doubles. I said, there's more medals for curlers to win out. I think maybe we should, the world of curling should promote that game so we have more medals to play for. Still like to do a little bit of traveling. There's a few things I like to see. I've seen the Great Wall of China. I would like to go maybe see the pyramids, little stuff like that. My wife wants to go on a Rhine cruise. So those things are there. And just to continue, we do some golfing in the wintertime too, so travel around. So a little bit more of that.
How does someone become the MC announcer for curling? Well, Stuart Brown tells us how.
So I'll give you the blunt one. I was doing a 24-hour relay for Easter Seals out in Toronto, and the production company liked what I did, and they got over and started doing arena football in Toronto, the Toronto Phantoms. He brings me in to be the on-field announcer for the arena football. Well, his partner in crime happened to be the gentleman who was actually in charge of hiring the MCs for curling. So they had a gentleman by the name of Jungle Jim Jerome. If anybody's been to a patch, they probably know what Jungle Jim's all about. And he had a radio show, and he couldn't do all the shows. He couldn't do the Worlds. He couldn't do the Scotties. So they were looking for another announcer. And this guy comes up to me and said, "Hey, I think you'd be great. Why don't we bring you in for that?" And I said, "That's nice. What's curling?" So I'm doing a show down in Salt Lake City in 2002, Winter Olympic Games for Budweiser. An aerial freestyle ski shows, trampolines, guys doing double flips in the air. And I'm trying to catch as much as I possibly can on the TV about curling. And that's when Paul Trolson and Martin were actually doing the gold medal game. And Martin loses by like about 2 inches or an inch, right? And then I flew right from there, right up to Brandon, Manitoba, 2002, to do the very first Scotties Tournament Hearts, which happened to be the first one for Jennifer Jones, too. So we date back that far back. Well, I was hired to do the Season of Champions, which at that particular time was the Canada Cup, Continental Cup, Scotties, Brier, and the World events. And then the Canada Cup became the points bet, which has just recently been, the very first one was just in September. The Continental Cup is gone, and then an opportunity came upon, I did an event for Everest in Fredericton, And I was brought in by Randy Furby, and Mark Duffy seemed to like what I did. And they wanted to up the game for the club championships and the senior championships, and they said, why don't we bring him in to introduce all the teams and make it special for those guys on the ice? Because sometimes they don't get the recognition, they don't get the hype of being at a Briar or Scotty's. Let's give them what they get there. Let's bring it to them.
How is it this morning with 400 screaming kids in the audience?
You know what? It's like match and gasoline. You know, you light the match, you set the gasoline, let them go. You come on and say, hey, look, this is not golf. You can make as much noise as you want. Feel free, go for it.
And they did.
And they did. And that's exactly what you want curling to be. You want it interactive. You want the community to jump in with both feet. This is what you want. And it worked out really well, I thought, very much so.
What do you do with your off season?
Oh, you're going to hate it. Okay, so I am the national whiskey consultant for Johnny Walker. That's my other job.
Well, that sounds like a dream job.
Well, there you go. Between the two of them, they work out really well. They balance off really well for time allocation, so it worked out really good.
We gave the final words to the mayor of the town of Yarmouth, Pam Mood.
You know, we always say we will welcome you. We will treat you well. You'll come, as I said, maybe a stranger, but you'll leave as family. And our hope in the end is that folks come back. You come back to visit, or you come back to stay. And what we're finding lately is that when we do big events, people are rethinking where they live, that quality of life. We're right on the ocean. Life is different here, and it's great. So we hope to see folks come back and more folks come in with all the other events that we're going to do.
I'm Gary Nickerson.
And I'm Quinn Taggart.
And this has been Outside My Window.